As a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve mankind. So often we forget that enforcement is not just a job for which we are hired as one would hire a laborer. It involves us a sworn duty. Service involves dedication and sacrifice of the giving of oneself. These are words that many find hard to swallow in his present day and age, but the job. Professional law enforcement requires a special breed of human. To safeguard lives and property, to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against violations or disorder. We must, however, understand some of the limitations that are present in truly democratic society. In such a society as ours, this task can be a difficult one, because protecting the rights of the criminal, this sometimes as a hard pill for law enforcement officer to swallow. It is easy for an officer to become bitter when he has continually witnessed the ends of the justice toward by red tape politics and technicalities of the law. The more truly idealistic he is, the more frustrated he can become, especially if the lack of philosophy or understanding of his true purpose in society, which the services to respect the constitutional rights of all men of liberty, equality, and justice. Respecting the rights of others is not one of man's natural qualities. It seems to be part of his nature of suspect and prosecute justice in the earth. Now will there ever be, because man is not all-knowing, nor is he himself perfect. Still, we must strive for a firm justice that presents out ultimate capability. This involves not only great on the part of every person in the community, but individual sacrifice as well. I will keep my private unsold as an example to all. One of the first things that a law enforcement officer must learn is that he has no private life. Every citizen should be entitled to his own private life, yet when a person accepts that the calling of law enforcement as a voluntary measure, he must be willing to obtain his privacy as a sacrifice to the good of the community which he serves. A law enforcement officer could hide from his neighbors the fact that he is a policeman. Then his private life could be his own. If a policeman has a family, his occupation will become known in the neighborhood within a few days at the most. If he is single and keep to himself, he may keep his secret a little longer, but if he is engaged in active law enforcement within his community, it is inevitable that his neighbor will become aware of it. Once this is known, he will become the object of constant observation. Maintain courageous calm and face of danger, scorn, or ridicule, and develop self-restraint. Most officers are prepared to face physical danger and public expected. This is due to the fact that when the most people think of police work, they think high-speed chases with the guns blazing and similar situation in which the officer's life is in constant danger. In a democracy, a policy officer is a public officer and as such is a must expect as a receive his position as part of his job. It is not easy to control his temper when being subjected to unnecessary and unjustified scorn or ridicule. Whatever I see or hear of confidential nature or that is confided to me in my official capacity will be secret unless revelation is necessary to the performance of my duty. Some officers feel that this is a difference in that the information obtained by the doctor and attorney is freely given within the understanding that it will be confined, whereas the information obtained as a part the law enforcement officer can be a result of many resources or forms of investigation. I will never permit personal feelings, prejudice, animosities, or friendships to influence my decisions. It is quite difficult to know which desire is strongest in some person to help our friends to hurt our enemies, but desire are part of human nature. Helping our friends can be very good thing in itself, but then it involves an iniquity in the administration of justice. We are defiling the oath opportunity to both hurt enemies and help friends, and takes person of strong character to properly perform his duties under the circumstances without professional convictions. This can be impossible. I will never act officiously. One of the faults that is common to new officers is that they often act officiously. They appear to be public to be over-impressed with their own importance. In a way, this is natural because it is associated with pride, and a new officer is usually very proud when he first puts on his uniform and badges. With no compromise for crime and with relentless prosecution of crimes, I will enforce the law courteously and appropriately without fear or favor, malice or will. The term with no compromission of crime means that crime will not be nowhere permitted. It does not mean that the officer must perform his duties to the letter of the law without taking into consideration the spirit of law. No one can predict the guarantee of the final results of any ethical. Only God can do this. Man can only be responsible for his immediate actions. If an officer does a good job and the criminal is released by the courts, the blame rests not upon him but upon the courts, the jury, or society itself. I will never employ unnecessary force or violence. At times, the use of force in the performance of one's duty is an absolute necessity. There is no escaping it. It is extremely difficult to judge exactly or not the use force used in a particular situation was necessary or not. The use force is violence of interrogation will not often produce immediate confessions, but it should avoid unethical grounds in that the interrogation seldom knows with the complete certain that suspects is guilty, and the use of force of the third degree on an innocent person is certainly miscarriage of justice as well as a violence of professional conduct. I will never accept gratitude. Gratuity takes two main forms. First is the gratuity given by a person with the sole intent of receiving something in return. Second, that is given solely but of a respect for a law enforcement and the job that the police officer are doing. To be truly professional, we must first be ethical. We must do what is actually desirable, not merely what we would like to be desirable. I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of a public faith, and I accept it as a public trust to be held so long as I am true to the ethics of police service. This is the most overlooked and forgotten facet of law enforcement by the man of the field. It is this that enable an officer to suffer the difficulties and problems that the held at times so frustrating and discouraging. Police officer must understand that he is one of selected few. Officers should also understand that any personal reward will not be obtained from the public itself. For the public, as it is a difficult master, if there is to be personal reward, it can only come from come from the job itself or from knowing the significance of the job and the essential role that plays in the society. I will constantly strive to achieve these objectives and ideals, dedicating myself before God to my chosen professionals, law enforcement. Proficiency in a law enforcement involves many factors. It involves mental, moral, and physical conditioning. There are all important aspects. The officer who let himself slip physically is certainly not able to protect society. The officer who is in good physical condition has more confidence in his ability. And this is sensed by those with whom he deals, and as a result finds that it is necessary to exert authority as much as it might be otherwise. However, knowing and understanding the code of ethics is not enough. It must actually be practiced. It must be lived.